if you had to have Jason Statham or Chief Brody save you from a killer fucking fish, who do you want in your corner?
Statham.
Statham!
I picked Statham.
You rat bastard. Just because you've seen all those Transporter and Fast movies, isn't it? That's what
it is. I feel like he has it in his bones.
Is it because he stabbed a fucking 75-foot shark in the eye?
I mean, that helped. Yeah, it heads the bets a little bit. I don't know. I just feel like when it comes down to it, he has the experience to rescue people. As far as his movies go, I love Chief Brody, but he's
very much like if you were put in that position.
Exactly. He's a dad on a boat.
He's a dad on a boat
with a decent shot. Decent's pushing it. He missed a few times.
He gets very lucky.
Yes. I love his morals and his fucking determination, but I think in overall, like, success,
we need a superhero to save us.
I would choose Statham.
Well, I mean, if you really put it to the scorecard, Brody has killed more sharks.
That is true.
He kills 2. Statham only kills 1.
How many people does he save?
He saves a lot more than Jason Statham does, I'll tell you that much.
That's true, he really just kind of flies off the fucking cuff.
By the end, like, Jason Statham saves, like, fucking 5 people or something like that. Brody saves, by the end of 2, he's saved probably, are we counting the entire island? I feel like we should count the entire island.
Am I on the boat with him, or am I on the fucking island?
What about all the tourists he saved?
There's a lot of people on the island that didn't even know a shark was there, FYI. There's some little fucking...
Alright.
I would choose Statham. If I was out in the water and a shark was coming to get me, I would choose Statham. You have to... I don't know. Okay. What's the scenario? What's the scenario?
If you put it that way.
If I'm out in the water and a shark is coming to get me, on a boat or not, I would choose Statham to save me.
Alright, well, you know, the only thing I have to
If I was on a fucking island, sure, yeah. Brody's got my ass, I guess. I don't know. So does being landlocked. I don't know.
It's only an island if you look at it from the water.
Okay. What was your answer?
I don't know. All I have to say is my answer is I drink to your leg.
Yeah, alright. I'll take it.
Here's to swimming with boat-legged women.
Yeah.
Hiya!
Yeah, baby.
Whew!
A little bit of lime juice is just...
Makes it
very nice.
It does the trick.
You know, we've been to the bar before, and a guy ordered tequila shots for us. He had it shaken on ice with an orange to bite after. Game changer.
See, I don't understand the biting after. I always
I get that.
I always want to squeeze it before, so I have the citrus in my mouth when I drink the tequila.
Hence the lime juice in the shot. I understand that.
I think the idea is that the citrus takes off the bite of the shot.
Right, I feel like
at
that's
the
the
end.
idea.
I do think it just doesn't. I don't know if the shot's supposed to be unpleasant, but for my money, I don't want my shot that I'm paying money for to be unpleasant, or I'm drinking to be unpleasant. So I like the citrus up front.
Yeah, if you're gonna drink Jose, you might as well just
my god,
bite the orange like an apple.
Yeah, exactly. Just fucking eat the whole orange.
Which I feel like is what we were kind of doing. He ordered the shots. I don't know what he ordered. The tequila itself, I recall not being pleasant. But to have an orange wedge, it felt like you were like after a children's soccer game. You just bite this chunky thing, and it's like taking it's like a orange juice back at that point. It was nice though. So if you gotta take a shitty shot of tequila, which if you're gonna take a shitty shot of tequila, you're probably at a shitty place. In which case, you probably don't want their oranges if they have them. It'd be like fucking Wisconsin limes. That's about all that's all I got for you.
So
take it away.
If you expected us to talk about Wisconsin limes and Jose Cuervo and eating oranges on the soccer field within the first 5 minutes of the Jony Jawscast, congratulations, folks. You have won our $1 million prize. Here's to you. Here's to Brian. Here's to myself. Here's to swimming with bow-legged women, as we said at the start of the episode. Welcome back to the Jony Jawscast for our third and final episode on the MEG. And in this particular episode, we will be discussing the differences, or maybe not so much a compare and contrast, but we will be discussing the film and the novel that it is based on, MEG, A Novel of Deep Terror, written by Steve Alton and originally published in 1997. We're going to go through the Wikipedia summary, because as we are known to be on the Jony Jawscast, we're a couple of lazy sons of guns who do little to no research, because we don't get paid to do research. I don't think enough people listen that it even matters. I could make up fucking horse shit and say that it was factual, and not enough people listen that it would even matter.
Casual plug, Jony does have a Patreon, and it pays for our tequila.
I have not cashed out my Patreon yet, so currently it is not paying for our tequila.
Hypothetically pays for my tequila. It could hypothetically
pay for our tequila.
My tequila.
But I am your host, Johnny Horror. With me is my boy,
Brian Calvert.
Ew. And if you haven't listened to our first 2 episodes on the MEG, not to be confused with MEG, A Novel of Deep Terror, but the MEG, the 2018 horror action sci-fi seawater epic starring Jason Statham and directed by John Turtletop of National Treasure fame.
I keep forgetting.
Please go back and listen to those episodes. There's a lot of good material. The first episode deals with Brian and myself's likes and dislikes of the film. We hand out a couple of awards. The second episode has to deal with the behind the scenes making of the film, this, that, and the other.
Also, there's some nuggets in there.
There's at least 1 or 2 chicky nugs in there somewhere. So this particular episode, we are gonna... I just can't not say dive in. I just can't not say it. Gun to my head.
Do it.
They're like, don't say dive on in. Don't say dive on in. And I'm going to say dive on in.
Do it.
Do it. We're going to dive on into the plot summary of Meg, a novel of deep terror. I have read the book. Brian has not. It is
not yet. Damn.
It is a fun fucking read. I kind of feel like I need to gift it to you now, Brian.
Yes, please. Next on the list for sure.
It's a little bit more of a dense read than Jaws is.
That's fair.
Unfortunately, there's a little bit more going on.
It's not like 18-point font.
Every other word isn't like, pantyhose and Ellen Brody trying to keep her fucking legs tied together at a restaurant.
Right, good lord, quite a read. Man.
But there is plenty of smut in Meg. I will tell you, there's plenty of it.
Shark books, I tell you, can't help themselves.
Shark books, they can't help themselves. That's just going to be that right there. Yeah. That line of dialogue is just going to be what I use to promote all of these episodes.
Smut with a side of shark attacks.
Oh boy. I'm too drunk to come up with any clever segue, so we're just gonna jump.
Yeah, jump on in.
Fuck! I'm gonna read about fucking Meg, alright? There we go. Not fucking...
Yikes.
I'm gonna quit this job. I'm too old for this shit. Meg! A novel of deep terror is a techno-thriller. Hold on, let's just read what a techno-thriller is. A techno-thriller is a hybrid genre drawing from science fiction, thrillers, spy fiction, action, and war novels. They include disappropriate amount of technical details on their subject matter. Only hard science fiction tends towards a comparable level of supporting detail. So, and it fades off.
Love that.
I'm not gonna read all that, but it sounds like it's a hybrid of various things. Meg, a novel of deep terror, is a techno-thriller novel by Steve Alton and was first published in July 1997. I was 7 years old. How old were you?
97?
I was 6, so you were 5.
I was born in 91, so yeah.
Yeah, you were 5. I was 6.
Okay.
Along with its sequels, the novel follows the underwater adventures of a Navy deep-sea diver named Jonas Taylor. In 2018, a film adaptation titled The Meg, yeah, that one, was released. A revised and expanded version of the novel, also containing the prequel, Meg Origins, was also released to coincide with the film's debut. A graphic novel adaptation was also released in 2018 by Steve Alton, J.S. Earls, and Mike Miller. Okay, plot summary, revised and expanded edition. Here we go, folks. So, if you have seen the film, this is a good time for you to picture that movie in your head, get all the characters and all the dumb things that they do in the dumb movie, and just kind of do a compare and contrast as I read all of this bullshit out to you. And you can decide which of these sounds like a more entertaining film to watch. Here we go. In the novel's prologue, during the late Cretaceous period, a Tyrannosaurus rex stumbles into the ocean while pursuing a herd of Shantagrosauruses, which is a very large Saluthian hadrosaur. It's a fucking
dinosaur.
It's a dinosaur that looks like it would be a Spinosaurus without a spine, basically.
Oh, okay.
And is promptly attacked and devoured by a Megalodon. The sequence is later revealed to be part of a slideshow by Jonas Taylor.
a paleontologist and marine biologist, for his presentation on Megalodon. In 1997, Jonas was working deep in the Mariana Trench with the United States Navy. His mission is top secret and involves the study of hydrogen nodules to solve any future energy crises using nuclear fission. But unfortunately, it was his third dive in 8 days and he was exhausted, yet was checked out by the Navy's top medical officer, Dr. Heller.
Fuckhead.
Yep. Checked out. So he was exhausted, his third dive in 8 days, and Dr. Heller in the books is like, nah, he's good.
Send him down.
So that's our first big ding. Yeah. Like, this is our start.
Red flag number 1.
Yes.
Fuck Dr.
And
Heller.
that's the thing that he checks him out and says, hey, no, you're good to go, even though he's fucking exhausted.
Asshole.
While on the dive, Jonas watches in horror as a megalodon rises from the depths. Jonas panics and surfaces as fast as possible and escapes, but causes the death of scientists as a result. Unfortunately, the Navy does not believe his claims, labeling him a madman and ruining his career while simultaneously covering up the misjudgment of the medical officer, Dr. Heller. Douchebag.
Yep.
Certified twat. Years later, Jonas continues to try and prove what he saw was real. His actions have also led Jonas to push away his estranged and separated wife, Maggie, and lead her to having an affair with his billionaire friend, Bud Harris.
Oops.
He is later approached by an old friend, marine biologist, Maso Tanaka, who lost a remote submersible that monitors seismic activity in the Mariana Trench and hopes to retrieve it. Seeing this as an opportunity to prove that the Megalodon still exists, Jonas agrees to help Tanaka over the objection of Tanaka's daughter, Terry. Sound somewhat familiar, right?
I'm following. Movie's on track a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
There was definitely some depth added in that beginning.
Oh yeah. Jonas and Tanaka's son, DJ, sound familiar?
Yeah, baby.
But Jonas and Tanaka's son, not Jonas and Tanaka's son, as if they had one together.
Right.
But Jonas and Tanaka's son, DJ, dive in small submersibles when they arrive at the trench. A male megalodon rises from the depths, and despite Jonas's attempts to distract the creature, it kills DJ. Jonas watches in horror as the megalodon is trapped in steel cables connected to DJ's connecting DJ's sub to the ship. As the megalodon is pulled to the surface, having its organs and flesh ripped apart by the ship. As the megalodon ripped apart by the cables. Jonas watches a second megalodon, a much larger female attracted by the struggles of her dying mate, rise from the trench. She attacks the male and feeds on him as he is pulled to the surface. His heated blood protecting her from the cold water layer that previously kept them from entering the ocean. Jonas and Tanaka are worried about the imbalance of the ocean's ecosystem that might result from the reintroducing of a megalodon after its absence of millions of years, as Jonas and Tanaka try to track down the megalodon.
Damn.
The female surfaces off the coast of Maui and kills several surfers. She also attacks a helicopter that Jonas uses to try and track her at night after discovering that thousands of years of living in the depths of the trench has led the sharks to develop bioluminescent white hides and destroys a military submarine that that is led by Taylor's commanding officer at the time in the Navy. At his time in the Navy. Please excuse me. I am intoxicated. Jonas and Tanaka realize that the female Megalodon is pregnant and are determined to capture her before she gives birth. Maggie seizes this opportunity to advance her career and decides to film the shark within a shark cage as the shark swims to California to give birth.
Ooh.
During her sojourn north, the shark gives birth to 3 pups, one of which she devours and the second which is killed by orcas. At the Farallon Islands, Maggie uses a dead whale to attract the shark, succeeding in filming it, but inadvertently causing it to attack the cage. Despite his best efforts, Jonas cannot stop the shark and rescue Maggie, leading to the creature devouring her as she tries to escape.
Damn.
Jonas and Tanaka track down the female after she attacks a whale-watching boat shortly after. After tranquilizing the shark and capturing her, Taylor's vengeful superiors and Maggie's lover try to kill the shark with a homemade depth charge.
Damn.
Sound familiar?
Yeah.
Causing the shark to awaken and rampage, killing dozens of witnesses and bystanders, including Taylor's superiors themselves. While the Megalodon is rampaging, Jonas pilots a submersible down her throat into her stomach, where he uses a hydrogen supply from his sub to ignite the whale blubber inside the shark's stomach, burning it from the inside out and escaping from his pod. Jonas is rescued by Terry and a passing tourist vessel. The survivors in Jonas and Tanaka's crew capture the last surviving Megalodon pup as Jonas is taken away to be treated for decompression sickness from his fight with the adult shark, and are excited about the opportunity to study this believed extinct creature in the flesh. The young Megalodon is later named Angel, the Angel of Death.
Holy shit. What the fuck, dude? That is a wild ride, to say the least. My God.
So it's a lot different. As there's with so in the book. So let me jump back. The film takes place over, one could argue, probably 3 to 4 days a week max.
I would say I was gonna guess maybe 2 weeks.
If you don't count the beginning, which is the prologue.
Right, yeah, no.
I would say the beginning of the film where they do their sub launch and they're down there,
right,
and they get Jonas there. That all has to be within a 24 to 48
yeah,
hour
because they say they have 18 hours down there.
Yeah, so they get they get that within a day, and then the next, there's not a lot of time in between the rest of the film. There's really not.
I think the only time there's really maybe a couple, a day or two, would be them switching to the boat and then it coming to shore type of thing. There's maybe a day or so in there.
Yeah, I would
maybe
really say,
but that's still a big push.
This whole story happens within a week at most.
Yeah, exactly.
And the book is almost weeks at a time. There's so much of,
which makes sense. I mean,
tracking the shark and
there's logistics
people's
involved,
motives and stuff like that.
The Navy's involved, so
and everything with Heller again, essentially telling Jonas, no, you're good to go, and Jonas knowing he's not good to go in that dive, and he's just exhausted. He can barely keep his eyes open, and
damn.
And then everything happens with the scientists, and then Jonas is saying this, that, or the other, and Heller's claiming that he's just crazy. So you can see how that opening
Right.
holds so much more weight than this weird opening that we get in the film where
It was rough.
Jonas is trying to rescue people, and he does rescue people, but has to leave his friends behind because he can't get to them in enough time, and Heller's calling him out, even though the minute they detached, like the second they detached,
the whole thing explodes.
that whole thing explodes, and there's no way, like,
And where is this rescue?
Yeah. It doesn't...
If the shark's chomping down on this thing, are they below the thermocline at that point? That's
It doesn't say.
That's where the Megalodons are.
Exactly.
Only.
Exactly, but no one has traveled that deep before. So, like, they don't really explain that in the film. It's really confusing.
Weird. And I'm like, why is there a Megalodon where they're not supposed to exist?
Exactly. And so the book explains it so much better, where it's like he's traveling down, they're doing this, they're doing tests, they're doing research, this,
they're
that,
down there
and
for
the
a
other.
reason.
And
they're bumping into
he can't even be, he's not even 100% sure that he saw what he saw.
Right.
Like, a lot of it is on the fence. Like, he's like, did I dream it? Because it was this white thing out of nowhere. And, like, that's one of the things I love about the book, is that they're bioluminescent, and, like, they're just, like...
cool.
They're, like, almost albino, basically, which is really creepy.
And also makes sense.
Yeah, because they're
in the 7
sun.
miles deep.
Yes. At the
or
very
further.
Least. Yes. And then, like we established, Jonas's ex-wife in the movie, Lori, is a very kind of like vanilla, almost like, why would you even get divorced from this gal? She seems like she's the sweetest in the world. Like,
oh, interesting.
Well, in the movie, like,
in the movie, for sure.
Yeah, you're like,
there's no tell.
Yeah. They have good chemistry, and she seems sweet as hell. Yeah. And I mean, people obviously have their problems, but you're like, okay, why couldn't these two make it work? Was it because Jonas was crazy? Because he thought
because someone ruined his career,
saw something? Yeah. Again, they don't explain why anyone would think Jonas is crazy.
The only way they touch on it was Max like one-liner of like, oh, their relationship was like, it was a doomed experiment or whatever.
Yeah.
And at year 1 or whatever he fucking says. Yeah. And it's
but
just like,
I mean, you're like,
that's
why?
the background.
Like, they
the background
seem to
they
get along.
give.
There seems zero tension. Like, what's the whole deal? Sort of.
Yeah. And the scene with the kid like put some aggravation in it. Don't make them buddy.
Yeah.
And like, no big deal. Like, oh, I heard you're dating someone else. Like, no big deal. Like,
yeah.
Oh, like, put some tension in there.
What
are we doing?
In the book, Maggie's his ex-wife is named Maggie in the book.
It's not Lori, yeah, it's Maggie.
And she's a gold digger, and she is a news anchor of some sort.
Okay.
I don't think she's like a huge news anchor. I think she's like a local, but she's trying to like get her big break.
Right.
And she's super jealous of Terry, who is the Su Yin character.
Oh, okay, right.
In the movie.
Yeah.
Essentially is Terry.
Yeah.
But obviously we have the DJ character, which is Terry's brother, and Tanaka's son in the book. He's very like headstrong and like takes one of the submersibles down and ends up getting himself killed because he's trying to be too gung-ho, and Terry blames Jonas for the death of her brother, which makes a lot more sense than the Toshi thing where she's like, you left him because you leave people, sort of a deal. And
it didn't make any sense.
Again, one of those things where you're like, dude, none of this has justification at all in the film. Like,
they just keep dragging in very particular sections of the book into the movie where it doesn't play.
Exactly. Not in the way that it plays in the book.
Yeah.
So But yeah, and I love in the book, I love that they use the male shark like bleeding for the female shark to like come out of
break the thermocline.
yeah, and she just goes on a rampage. This is a great scene in the book that's described in it. They have it right here on the
Oh my god!
the cover of the book.
That's like Jurassic Park, one of the newer movies.
Yeah,
where they push it.
They have the shark just coming out of the wave, and that's how it happens in the book. This kid's surfing, and the shark comes out of the wave and like essentially swallows him whole, and it's a really terrifying scene to read. But shit like that, they put so much of the shark in real world scenarios, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
And they do that throughout the rest of the series as well. But in the first book, it just lands so hard.
And in the movie, it's like they're far and few between. It's really just towards the tail end with always the beach scene. Basically, is all you get.
I don't know. Like, there's just like I don't know I don't know what I can't pinpoint what it is about the movie, but they do not get the shark right. The shark is never scary. And I don't know if it's because it's always in the distance. I don't know if it's because it's CGI. Right. Like, I never feel... The only time that shark is really scary is when it is going above the submersible with the...
That one, and when it just cruises past the cage. Those are the only scenes where I'm just like, oh shit, that's freaky.
Yeah.
And it's when it's moving slow.
Yeah.
And it's realistic. Because there's other than those two exact scenes, there's, like we said with the Shallows, there's no anchor.
Yeah.
To, like, make you feel like either A, you're there, or B, it's realistic in any way.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing that grounds it size-wise.
Yeah. Is there...
It's so hard to, like, comprehend it as, like, this big shark when it's just, like, this ridiculous thrashing CGI thing.
In your mind, is there any way to do it realistically? Like, is there any way to make that feel real outside of doing it computer-generated? Or do you think the only way to do it is computer-generated, but, like, it has to be, like, a less is more scenario where you see less of the shark?
That's really where my head goes, but I can't help but compare it to what has been done successfully. That's the hardest part, is like Jaws did it so well of not showing it for so long in the movie that it just builds it for so long. It's so scary. Where in this movie, it's like, it builds it up, things are... But the scariness is that they're getting rattled in this cage, but you never see anything until, like, the first scary thing is like, oh, there's a giant squid. And it kind of, like disillusions the fear.
See, I think almost the way that I think it would work best is if you do it the way it's done in the book, where you see it from the character's perspective.
Yeah.
If you were to see it, like that shot, when you first see the shark go over, it's from the submersible.
Yeah.
If you see the shot of the creature from the human's point of view, always from the human's point of view,
yes,
then I think that lends itself to the size of the creature and the believability, as opposed to pulled back.
This big aerial shot.
Or you could do 99% that, and then you have these wide epic shots of like a shark coming through the wave to eat a surfer,
right?
Like that, and then you're like, "Fuck!
But
oh my
really
god!"
Have to put it in the right perspective, where like
absolutely.
You don't see the whole thing at that point.
No, you could just see like a mouth or something like that. Like,
it just has to tease it. If you're gonna pull that shot out, like you said, like that submersible shot, the first shot is fucking wild.
Yes.
Because all you see is like it's like the ceiling. It's like its underbelly and like its tail fin, and you have this like comprehension from her view in this little fucking hamster ball of being like, oh fuck, it is giant.
Well, that goes back to Jaws. It's that wonderful line in Jaws when Hooper's trying to get Brody to go out onto the railing.
Yep.
And he's like, go out to the end of the railing, go out to the end of the railing. And he's like, what for? Why? And he's like, I need something in the background to give it some scale. Or he says, I need something in the foreground to give it some scale. And he's like, foreground my ass.
Yep.
And he doesn't want to go out into the railing. Like, that idea of scale.
Well, that's real. Yeah.
That puts, you can put a human there and be like, all right, this is how big this thing is. I think that would do wonders. We don't get enough of that in this film.
At all.
And
it's rough.
And when you do, it works best when the shark is moving slow, because I think almost all the shots where there's a human, either like we're taking it from a human perspective, or there's a human in frame with the shark.
Yes,
it's moving slowly.
It's not. Yeah, it's not like this full blown like thrashing attack.
With the exception of like the attack on the beach where the shark is like moving around and there's people in there. Yeah. But so much the other time it's like the shark is chasing a submersible or something like that, you know?
And it's just like, okay, it's aggressively a CGI shark that shouldn't be moving that fast, that big. Like, it's just, it's hard to comprehend when it comes by and it's just like, its eye, and it's not attacking you, but it's that fucking big. I mean, there's videos you've sent me on Instagram of like people swimming next to a fucking blue whale.
Yeah.
And it's just cruising past them. The fact that it's just that big and that close, and it's like the most gentle thing in the ocean, is just fucking terrifying. And it just is there.
We can, double back to Jaws' origins, if you will, and again, we'll talk about Moby Dick. Like, sperm whales are fucking terrifying because they are aggressive as fuck. And they are, like, bioluminescent. Those fuckers are white and creepy, and their eyes, man. I saw a great Moby Dick film with Patrick Stewart. I mean, I say great because I really liked it when I saw it. It's probably not great. But, there's a great shark sequence in it that is done with a real shark that they somehow, like, filmed and then
holy shit,
they added it to the film later. But it's scary as fuck. But there's so many good shots of just, like, the whale's eye, and it's like consciousness, and it's creepy as hell.
They're super fucking smart.
Yeah,
they're like orcas, like.
Yeah,
them
whales are
to a person,
insanely intelligent.
Yeah, it's like those videos of them like just like cruising around like people that are just floating in a lake or whatever, and they're just like just blow right by you, and they just look at you and decide, I don't want to eat that.
Yeah.
When they eat shit that same size all the fucking time.
Yep. Well, that's like why I love Moby Dick, because it's this story of this giant monster. It is Godzilla. It is King Kong. It is the Great White from Jaws.
Exactly.
It is all of these creatures. It's this monster that man is trying to destroy and can't.
Yep.
Because you can't beat nature, basically. And Moby Dick just has an even more bleak ending than Jaws. It really does.
Yep.
But back to your point, there are these great moments in Moby Dick, and you have it in the Meg, but I really do think it's done best in Jaws.
Yep.
In the cage sequence, when Hooper is in the cage and he sees the shark move past the cage, and you see him back up.
Yeah.
When the shark moves past the cage. And that goes back to a moment that you and I talked about while we were watching the Meg.
Yeah.
When the whale is tapping on the glass of the sea station.
Yeah.
And Jonas and Mac are standing there.
Yeah.
And the Meg comes out of nowhere and obliterates this whale.
Rips it in half.
And they
one bite.
Both just kind of like do this little
like tense up.
Barely move. And
It's
you made the comment of like, oh my god, how did they not like launch backwards basically?
You're in a hamster tube out in the ocean, and that whale that is at least, give or take, 20 feet long. It's a calf, they called it.
Yeah.
Get ripped in half in front of you, and you just tense up, like, and clench your fists.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
And I told you...
I would have shit myself.
I told you that had I been directing that scene, had it been you and me in that scene, we would have flown backwards.
Yeah.
I would have said... Okay, here's the part in the script where we launch backwards because...
We have shot a scene of us just throwing ourselves.
Absolutely.
In fear.
Yes, we've done it multiple times. Because it felt real to the characters and in the moment, and there's no way that either of those two men would have been standing.
No.
After something like that. That would have shook any human to see anything that large be destroyed by something larger in a split second. You would have fallen to your fucking knees.
Yeah. I would have thrown myself as far back as I could and would have just been sprinting to an elevator to get out of that scenario. You're literally out in a hamster tube and floating in the ocean as this thing just obliterates a whale in front of you. Like, you are next, your brain goes into survival, that you don't just stay on your feet. Like,
no.
That scene just, I'm like, I don't know, man.
Well, that
scene
was
just
like
sets the tone for disillusion. And it gets hard to believe a lot of things that are gonna happen.
To piggyback on that, when we were watching, there's the whole scene with Shuyin in the plastic tank.
Oh, right, yeah.
She gets trapped in there.
Yep.
And
in its mouth.
And she's losing oxygen. And Jonas is coming to try and save her, and she has like 0 oxygen, and she's telling Jonas, Go, don't, I don't have any oxygen.
After it spit her out,
Yeah, and I told you, I was like, I think in that scenario, I think like if you were like shot or something like that, your body's like shutting down.
Yeah, you're bleeding out beyond belief.
But
maybe
when you're drowning, your body is in fight or flight mode. Like when you can't breathe, there is a legit panic attack that your mind cannot comprehend and your body cannot control.
Yep.
And you're trying to save yourself.
Yeah.
All
you see is the surface. Like.
Yeah, and there's just no way that she would be reacting that calmly to essentially drowning.
Like the tone they put in her voice too, of just like, no, don't go back to the top, leave me.
Yeah,
save yourself.
That's just not where your brain would be. Your brain would be like, get me out, get me out, get me out, get me out, get me out.
You wouldn't be talking. You just pushing.
Yes, you would
that
be
fucking
losing
hatch
you would
as
be
hard as you
losing
can.
your fucking mind. That's like one of those other moments of just like where your suspension of disbelief. You're like, this does not add up. This is not how people
it doesn't
react.
There's no fucking way. As trained as you can be, look, you have the possibility of escape, and someone trying to help you, like, that's where you're going.
Yes, absolutely.
You have point A and point B.
Have you ever been?
There's no way.
Have you ever been stuck under something and almost drowned before?
Yes, surfing, horrible. That's all I did.
Yes.
Yeah. I got rocked by a huge wave, got held underneath water, didn't know which way was up. The only way I knew was because my surf leash didn't break, and I didn't know which way was up, and I found my leg and followed my surf leash, and I just followed it, and it felt like a fucking metal cable. It was so tight because my surfboard was so high above me, and it was pulling so hard on my leg, and I didn't know which way was up, and I just started following it like a cable all the way to the surface.
That's crazy.
Until I came out. And Max was hanging onto his board because he didn't get held down. And he was fucking laying on his surfboard, gasping for air because he had just come up. And my board was, they call it tombstoning.
Oh,
so
man.
only the point of my board was out of the water because I was so deep down, it was pulled onto the surface. And he was just watching it. And then it just shot out, and I came out right underneath it.
Oh, man.
Gasping for fucking air.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Holy fuck." I was like, I'd never been that deep in the ocean, because I don't dive.
Yeah.
I'd never been that deep in the ocean. I could feel the temperature change. I took one big one on the head, and then took a second one, and got pushed further before I could come up to take air. And after the second one, I felt how cold it was. I didn't know how deep we were. I was like, holy shit, I've never been this deep in the ocean. It is so cold down here and so dark. And then as soon as my board let loose and I popped up underneath it was just like,
that's scary.
And I was like, that was the closest I've ever been to like drowning, to being that scared, to like suffocating, like, oof.
Yeah, see.
And you officially go into fight or flight. I just was like, this is my lifeline.
Yes.
And just followed it. And I popped up, and Max was out there, and I was just like, I couldn't think of anything. I was just like, I just want to go to the beach. And we're out in the middle of the ocean, and there were big waves. I was just like, whatever it takes. After like the next like 10 minutes, I was just like, we are going to the beach. And I just rode white water, just getting pounded all the way back to the beach. I was just like, I don't fucking care. As long as I'm going that direction, and as long as we're not out here anymore. Max is like behind me. I'm like, I'm going that way.
Yes.
Yeah. Went on the beach. I threw up a bunch of salt water. Yeah. Oh.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Sounds
But it's a fight or flight situation.
Yeah, mine's
There's
a lot.
No way your brain is just like, leave me. No, you're fine.
Yeah,
you go. Like, no,
no.
get me out.
Yeah. My story's a lot
Maybe
more.
some people, but
a lot more stupid. Like, I was a kid, and it was a swimming pool that had the little retractor thing that would cover the swimming pool.
Oh, right.
And I was thinking I was super cool and like finding little pockets where I could pop up, and I did like a number of times. Like, I was doing it for a while, where I just like knew this like little pocket that I could pop up in and get air. And I did it a number of times. It was fine. So it wasn't like I was like inherently just being stupid. I was being stupid, but I like it was like a tried and true thing. And then I got to a point where like I went to a pocket and it wasn't there.
Yep.
And I was stuck.
Yep.
And then I couldn't breathe, and then I was stuck again, and I couldn't breathe, and I was stuck again, and I couldn't breathe.
Oh.
And I had to like rush as fast as I could to try and find the exit. And again, that was my own stupidity that got me in that situation. But it is that feeling of like, get me out. Like, there's just no fucking way that your brain
panic takes over.
Yeah, your brain is just like, I need to live. I need to live. I need to live.
Yep. I did that once at a buddy's house. He's like, "Oh, you ever play this game?" Like, they pulled the fucking cover over, and I was like, "Make it to the other end." I made like halfway, and then fucking panicked. Made it to the other end. I was like, "I will never do that again."
Yeah.
That feeling of like suffocation.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, it's fun." No.
No.
Never. I was like in 5th grade. I was not a good swimmer.
Yeah.
And I was like, never again.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna play the cover game." I'm like, fuck off.
Yeah.
I will not be in the pool. Like,
Shit
not
sucks.
here to die.
Shit sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here to have a good time.
Yeah, it's insane.
Not here to die.
Yeah, yeah. It was a sleepover. Like, no, come on.
Well,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
wild.
I mean, I feel like
we went down the tangent.
no, and I mean, it was a tangent, but it wasn't like unrelated. It's not like we were fucking talking about. I don't
Those
know.
scenes just they don't have that weight to them. I don't
Yeah,
know. We're
no.
fucking 90s kids.
No,
we used
they
to do
don't.
that dumb shit. Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't relate.
Well, I mean, there's even just for a comp, you know, for something relatable. There's the scene in Deep Blue Sea where, what is it? Is it Goggins and
Oh, I can't remember now.
oh gosh, what is it? And fucking Thomas Jane. I know Thomas Jane.
No way.
Here we go.
Yeah, they have like a.
They have to go dive. It's when what's his name dies. I'm trying to see
One
right
of them
now.
doesn't make it, right?
Is it? Oh, it's Scoggins.
Scoggins.
Yeah, it's when Scoggins and Thomas Jane, aka Carter
Yeah.
Blake, go down. It's when Scoggins gets bit in half, but they have to go
That's
do
right.
that deep dive, and they're underwater.
Yep.
You're like, dude, you hold your breath the entire time that scene happens to
Yep.
see if you can.
There's so many movies
Yeah.
like that where like you gotta go, you gotta hold your breath. We're gonna make it to the next one, and I always hold my breath, and I'm just like, I would have died.
Well, there's this movie that stuck with me for the longest time. I saw it when I was a kid. I'd love to revisit it. I haven't seen it since I was super young, but it's called The Hunley, and it's this.
Okay.
It's a Civil War movie. It's a Civil War
God.
movie,
Oh God.
but it's
So you know it's fucked.
yeah, and it's about the first submersible.
Oh my God.
And it was the South that built this submersible. And the thing that, dude, I like Civil War. This sounds terrible to say, but like the Civil War is like I don't want to say my favorite war, but it's the war that I'm most fascinated by because you have
I get that. Yeah.
just the time period.
Yep.
Just is so
I get
fascinating
what
to
you
me.
mean,
I
yeah.
love that frontier whole vibe. And then you really do have like brother against brother thing, and that's just so fascinating to me.
It is,
I
yeah.
understand the
Oh, I get
how
it. Yeah.
fucking fucked everything was, and
Oh, absolutely.
and
But the
my
fact that it happened
my main thing that I'm like the thing that is important to me about this war is that it's one of the few wars, if not the only war, where it was brought out by man trying to do good, basically, at least in recent memory of anything that we're aware of. It wasn't like
Right.
fucking Hitler trying to take over the world or some evil shit, anything like that.
Right,
It was
yeah.
people being like, we need to relieve the suffering of mankind, basically. And then people on either side who were brothers, who were friends, having to come to terms with what that meant for them, and it's just such a fascinating study
Yeah.
of all that. To
insane.
see either side of that story is very, very interesting to me. But I digress. The Hunley is about the first submersible that was created.
Fuck.
and the South created it in the Civil War, and you know it's sketchy as fuck if it's just this giant hunk of metal
Jesus.
during the Civil War. And spoiler alert for the Hunley, all of them die. They all drowned in the submersible, and you have to sit and watch them all drown, and it is one of the most excruciating scenes I think I've ever watched.
Yeah,
and I watched it as like it probably was harder to watch than any of the shit I've seen as a horror fan, like seeing fingernails pulled off, seeing like
it's so
arms and legs,
it's a different level.
because you see them struggling
Yeah.
as they drown, and they know they're going to drown.
Yeah,
and they kind of accept it basically.
It's like what we talked about earlier. It's like watching Fury. I'm like, man,
yeah,
it's just so heart wrenching.
It's a gut wrenching thing. That acceptance of like, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And trying to wrap your head around that.
Yeah.
But watching, like, it's something like 7 or 8 guys just sit and drown is fucking scary as shit.
Yeah, that's horrifying.
Dude, the ocean is scary. The ocean is the scariest thing on
We talk about this
Earth.
all the time.
And this is partly why the reason why you and I are doing this podcast, because it's not just about sharks. It's about everything. The ocean wants to fucking eat you up and spit you out.
Yeah,
man.
you think like going hiking and being afraid of a mountain lion or grizzly bear is scary, but man, being out in the ocean is right up there.
You never know.
A lot of the fucking time, and you never see it. Everything is just invisible.
Yeah.
And it's wild.
Again,
the ocean is wild.
We mentioned before the fact that we know more about outer space than we do about our own ocean speaks volumes. And I don't know if I could think of a better way to really dial this final episode in than that.
Yep.
Maybe.
Exactly.
Just maybe there is a Megalodon somewhere out there. I could...
Space?
Yeah, why not? Why just Space Megalodon!
That's some Rick and Morty shit right there.
That's it. Dude, I would not be surprised.
Old planet of Megalodon.
So we're gonna wrap up this final episode of the Jony Jawscast covering the MEG. But before we do that, we're gonna go ahead and give our final thoughts and opinions. I think Brian called me out and
that's right.
said that I would he would prefer it if I gave my opinion first. So we do our rankings out of 10 here on the Johnny Horror Show. So this movie never manages...
It's gonna piss me off if you steal my ranking now.
This movie never manages to go balls deep in either direction. It is neither ever as scary as it wants to be or as fun as it wants to be. It just kind of goes somewhere in the middle and ends up feeling very bland. Almost every single line of dialogue feels like it is from a Disney film, a Marvel movie. It sounds like it's trying to be clever and witty and funny, and it comes across feeling forced or impractical, improbable, and just downright unfucking natural. Jason Statham is a lot of fun to watch. I think he's very charismatic. I think he's an enjoyable lead, and he does the best with what he has. Him and Cliff Curtis are definitely this film's saving grace. The rest of the cast tries, but they really can't rise above the material. It's a fun watch. It was a very, very fun theatrical experience with me and all of my best friends at my bachelor party.
That being said, it is hard pressed for rewatch. I would rather reread the books. I'm gonna go ahead and rank this bad boy a 5.6 out of 10.
Ooh. 5.6.
Yes.
Curveball. Thank God. I was just worried you were going to hit it the exact same that I was going to base it off of. That was all I was worried about. I loved it. It is just an action-packed, fucking stupid-ass, giant CGI mess. As we all know, I just fucking love action movies, which means Jason Statham is my boy, and he does the best with what he has. But man, it is a hard-pressed shark movie to watch, at least to enjoy as a shark movie. But I do enjoy it as an action flick. It's ridiculous. It's over the top. I dig it, but I will give it a better rating than yours. I put it at a 6.5.
Hey.
I put it at a hard... Yeah, I know. I was worried for a minute, and then you really just got weird with yours. So, but yeah, I'm a 6.5. I like it. It's fun. I'm excited for the second one. I can't wait for it to actually come out. I hope it is R-rated. I hope they jack it up a notch.
Me too.
I have my fingers crossed all the way out until we go see it in theaters.
Which we will absolutely
It will be
do.
fucking rad, and we'll enjoy it no matter what, but, you know.
This time, we're going to drink beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely.
And during.
Yeah, and probably before. And I'm into it. But, man, I love the fact that people are still pushing shark films. And so, I'm excited for the second one.
Me too.
I hope they jam it up a little bit. Because this
yeah.
one was rough, and it is what it is, but hey, on to the next one.
I feel like with Ben Wheatley, what I know about his track record, I feel like I'm really excited to see what they come up with. So,
yeah, hell yeah.
Just cautiously optimistic, as they say.
That's a good way to put it.
But that's gonna wrap up this episode, this segment, this show of the Jony Jawscast. If you guys have managed to make it all the way through 3 episodes of Brian and I babbling about bubbles and such, thank you. Appreciate it. We have a lot of fun doing this because it's just 2 buddies shooting the shit and being drunk, which we would do on or off camera. So we appreciate you if you tuned in, and if you like what you hear, you enjoy us, please share this shit with your friends. If you're not subscribed to YouTube or whatnot, you can do that. You can also follow us on Spotify. Give us a good rating on Spotify. That'd be cool. That'd be super helpful. But, you know, just honestly, just happy if you're listening. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. Brian, thank you for being here. I know you're very busy and you have many irons in the fire, as it were. So thank you for making the time. I appreciate you being here, buddy. I you know, wouldn't have anybody else on the Jony Jawscast. You know, this is
damn right.
It's the fucking shit. So, thank you guys so much. It's been a blast.
Hell yeah.
And for me, your host, Jony Horror, and my boy
Brian Calvert.
Ayo.
God damn it.
We will see you motherfuckers on the flip side. Adios, muchachos.